Good morning, everyone. Today we'll be talking about cowboys. But first we'll start with the chant. I hope everyone's well. Om Jo Shantihi Antariksham Shantihi Prithvi Shantihi Apa Shantiroshadaya Shantihi Vanaspataya Shantihi Visvedeva Shantihi Brahma Shantihi Sarvam Shantihi Shantireva Shanti Same Shantiredhi Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Peace is in the sky, peace is in space, on earth and in the waters. The herbs and trees are full of peace. The gods are peaceful. Brahman is peaceful. All is peace, peace, peace alone. May that peace enter us. Okay, so today we are going to talk about cowboys. Not the kind we grew up with in the United States, but the cowboys of Vrindavan, called Gopals. And I'm going to read a description of Vrindavan when the cowboys were the companions of Krishna. In Vrindavan, the emphasis on beauty and grace was all-pervading. Flowers, sweetness, clouds, gopis, cows, all were beautiful and serene. Krishna's flute calling to everyone and everything at all times. A constant call to God covering the entire area of Braj, or now you know where Pravrajika got her name. She is named after whose life is in Vraj, which was the playground of Krishna. Now, to quote David Kinsley, pleasing song is the natural speech of the people, and their natural gait is dance. In the heavenly sporting ground of Vrindavan, Krishna's paradise, ordinary things such as walking and speaking lose their pragmatic nature altogether and become dance and song. And where Krishna is, nothing is ordinary, nothing is harsh, nothing is graceless. The call to the eternal is ever present in our world. As external circumstances become more violent, more catastrophic, more threatening, can we think of 2020? We look for answers. We're here today because something is calling us to look beyond events. In Vedanta, we would call this a call to Godhead, to Brahman, to our real nature. This is personified in the Leela in Vrindavan. The call of Krishna's flute cares nothing for this world and its social or moral laws. It comes crashing in upon man and cannot be denied. Even the gods are enchanted. By means of his flute, Krishna fills himself and the universe with bliss. He distracts everyone and everything from normal activity and enchants them to revel in ecstasy. I'll quote David Kinsley again. He wrote a book that I'm quite fond of called The Sword and the Flute, which discusses the connection between Kali and Krishna, particularly in Bengal. So to paraphrase Kinsley once more, God as the baby Krishna is so absorbed in his own play that the world order has begun to fall apart. Testimony to a divine freedom and spontaneity that transcends the world order. Again, testimony to the essential nature of the divine as self-delight. we can add to that explanation the essential nature of completeness, desirelessness. During the childhood, babyhood of Krishna, demons came to kill him and or harm his playmates in idealistic Vrindavan. He took care of every demon and every thing that came in their path, but it did not last long. He did it very quickly, very efficiently, and got back to the delight of Vrindavan. Now, the first time Ramakrishna saw Swami Brahmananda, he met him and he looked at him and he said, and they chatted a little bit, and he said as he was leaving, "What is your name?" And he said, "Rakal." And Sri Ramakrishna said to himself, "Rakal, the shepherd boy playmate of Krishna in Vrindavan." He recognized him immediately. Maharaj, he was always worried about Maharaj going to Vrindavan, because he said if he once sees his divine nature, he will drop this body. Well, when Rakal, or to become Swami Brahmananda, was young and in the monastery, they had just started the monastery. Well, actually, they hadn't. He was still living with Ramakrishna off and on. And he went to Vrindavan with Balaram Bose. He wrote back to Ramakrishna, "What a wonderful, holy place is Vrindavan. The wild peacocks are dancing all around. The air is full of singing and dancing and praises of the Lord. Here you feel an unending joy in the holy name." Now, we look at this, and he's worried a little bit about Rakal ever finding his true nature. Rakal was one of the ever-free souls. In Reminiscences, there's a book, Brahmananda as We Remember Him. Suji Maharaj, who was Brahmananda's attendant, said, Thakur used to say, with every incarnation of God, Rakal has come as his companion. He is eternally perfect. He is the eternal companion of God. Now, how does he manifest this? Because we just celebrated Maharaj's birthday. Krishna in Vrindavan is a bit of an enigma. He doesn't follow the moral rules. He's a naughty boy. And his playmates are naughty with him. They steal butter. They harass the gopis they harass them. They steal their butter. They steal their milk. They get into trouble. They go hide, and they spend all of their days when they're watching the cows of Vrindavan playing in the fields and in the forests. They live in pure delight. So the next phase of Krishna's life is he becomes the king of Mathura. And he leaves Vrindavan and Vraj behind, never to return. He also becomes the charioteer in the Gita, Arjuna's friend and charioteer, the person who directs the whole fight, etc. So how does Maharaj personify this playmate aspect of Krishna's constant companion? Well, all of the Swamis who knew Maharaj and lived with him, one of the things that stuck out first in their mind was he had a keen sense of humor. And he was always doing slightly naughty things. Once Swami Akhandananda came to visit him in, I think it was Varanasi. It may have been Bhubaneswar. And Swami Akhandananda wanted to get back up to the Himalayas where his orphanage was. And Maharaj did not want him to leave. And so he was to be taken to the train station on a palanquin. And Maharaj went out to the main gate of the ashram and took leave of Swami Akhandananda, put him on the palanquin, and it was a long way to the train station, so the palanquin was moving, and Swami Akhandananda was sleeping in it. Okay. The next morning, they stopped, and he thought they were at the train station, and there was Maharaj saying, "Brother, you've returned so soon?" And Akhandananda burst out laughing. He said, "He just had me carried around the compound all night because he didn't want me to leave." Another time, Swami Maharaj noticed that a young man who had come with an older devotee was really taken with Swami Premananda. He really loved Swami Premananda. And so Maharaj was quick to make up verses that didn't make much sense, but they were, in Bengali, they were really funny, I assume. In English, it's a little iffy. So he asked this young man, he said, "Have you taken leave of Premananda, of Babaram Maharaj yet?" And he said, "No." And he said, "I tell you what you have to do. You have to go with folded hands, recite this verse," which was something like, "Beloved teacher, I want to throw myself at your lotus feet." And as you say it, throw yourself down in a Shishtanga Pranam and grab his feet. Well, the young man went to Premananda, and he was saying this verse kind of, and Premananda kept saying, "I can't understand what you're saying. What are you saying?" And Maharaj and Swami Prabhavananda started laughing because they were standing there watching it. They wanted to see how it went. And Premananda turned, he says, "You know what he's saying." And so Maharaj told him, and the young man was so embarrassed, and Premananda just howled again. He thought it was one of the funniest things. Now, these are with his own brother disciples, he's pulling these. Another time, I think it was in Madras, he was with Mahapurush Maharaj. And Mahapurush Maharaj was very proper and good. Anyway, he was a man with great gravitas. So Maharaj asked him to put on a very fancy dhoti, a gentleman's kurta, some shoes, carry a cane, and walk across the compound. Mahapurush, he took a little, it took a little to talk him into it, but he finally agreed because Maharaj was asking him. And he did. And he came back, and Maharaj said, "What happened?" He said, "Not one person recognized me." He said, "One man looked at me and turned away." And they both had a good laugh on that one. Then there was the time when Maharaj had been fasting all day, and there were sweets in the cooler in his room. He didn't want, as he went to bed, he still was fasting. Well, the next morning, his attendant came in and looked in the cooler, and the sweets were all gone. And they were all going, "What happened? A cat must have come in and opened it and gotten in and eaten the sweets." And Maharaj, "Yes, a very big cat," and pointed to himself. And they realized he'd gotten hungry in the night and gotten up and eaten everything in the cooler. He said to all the young monks, he said, "Laugh every day. Always have a good laugh every day. It relaxes the mind and the body." Another joke that he used to play on many of his disciples and people at the mott was they would be sitting to meditate, and he would quietly sneak up and put their favorite sweets right next to them, so that when they opened their eyes, of course he was gone, and he would say, "Did you get the fruits of your meditation?" So his jokes were all kind and funny, but they were all, I have two others that make a little more sense in English. One time, Balaram Bose's wife had a dream, and she dreamt that she was feeding Maharaj. Now, at this time, they didn't have much good food in the monastery because the monastery was very, very poor when it first started. So she made a sumptuous feast for Maharaj, fed him, and told him that she had had this dream that Thakur said she was to feed Maharaj. And he said, "Tell your grandmother to dream more often, okay?" A devotee once, when he was out, had told him he would give him a ride back to the monastery. Now, the devotee was quite wealthy and had a Rolls Royce. So Maharaj rode back in the Rolls Royce, and his comment at the end is, "In the future, my motto will be Rolls Royce or walk." This shows you the playful attitude of Maharaj. That was an outward area. This was not his general demeanor. His general demeanor was one of introspection and meditation. The guru, he was very, very meditative. Some people were quite afraid of him because he didn't talk easily. He would be absorbed in the joy of himself. The self, not himself. But we'll cover another little aspect of the protective attitude of Sri Krishna in Vrindavan. When he killed the demons as they came one by one, when he lifted Mount Govardhan to save the gopis and the gopas and the cows. Maharaj had this same protective attitude towards the monks of the order and towards his disciples. Sometimes it came out very heroically. In the night, they were walking, some disciples, and he were walking back to the mott, and a mad bull was charging. And the two disciples, who were very young, rushed to stand in front of him because he was an old man then. And they said, he took his arms and flung us behind him. He was still very strong, and stood and faced down the bull. They both stood there looking at each other, and then the bull shook his head and walked off. Again, in Bhubaneswar, which was Maharaj's favorite place, he built that for a place to probably reenact Vrindavan. It's very rural, it's very quiet. He went to get away and to be absorbed in meditation. But it's a very wild area, or it was. Nothing's wild in India anymore, I don't think. So one night they were walking along, and they saw a tiger coming. And once again, Maharaj got his disciples behind him and stood just as still. The tiger and he were about 100 feet apart, looking at each other. And once again, they both walked off in the opposite direction. He tried to protect his disciples even from themselves. He told one, "You should not do this, you should not do this." And the disciple did it anyway, and did not have a happy life after that. His life was troublesome completely. The other aspect, we said Krishna went as the king of Mathura. Now Thakur had told Swamiji, Rakhal has the intellect of a king. He can run a kingdom. Swamiji, when he was founding the order, put Rakhal in full charge. He told him, Rakhal will be our king. They called him Raja from then on, Raja Maharaj. excuse me, and we will follow what he says. Swamiji was in, oh, excuse me, something just got in my throat. Swamiji was in America, and he wrote back to the Mott a couple of times. He wrote to Maharaj, his second letter to Maharaj. He said, Raja, take charge of all the financial aspects of the Mott. I send all my money to you for you to use as you see fit. Now, they were trying to build a temple at the time. They were trying to build Bellarmont, or thinking about it, mostly thinking about it and planning. He also wrote to Swami Ramakrishnananda the same thing. Raja will be in charge of the finance. Everyone is to do as he says. Now, the translator of these speculated, and it was pure speculation, that there might have been some doubt among the direct disciples onto who would be the best manager. And Swamiji squelched it right then and there. He said, our order is built on cooperative help, not on, there should be no jealousy, no competition. It should be on love and cooperation. So Raja Maharaj became the leader of the Vedanta, of the order of monks. Excuse me, just one second. Okay. He did this for his entire life, and he was not one whose natural inclination was to take charge of business aspects. He had been, prior to being made the president, the first president of the Order of Monks, he had been happier going to Vrindavan, going to Bhubaneswar, going to Almora, and meditating. He lived a very contemplative, meditative life. He was the one who was called to Varanasi when they were having trouble with some young monks. Young monks were fighting. Two of them were fighting quite vigorously. And whoever was in charge, I can't remember who, called Maharaj and said, we have to expel them. They're not meant for the order. And Maharaj said, just keep them till I get there. So he got there, and the only thing he asked all the young monks, the novices, to do, come and meditate with me every morning. After 2 weeks, there was no arguing. The two young monks had completely lost the combative spirit. And also, when they were forming the order, I think it was Swami, I believe it was Swami Turiyananda came to him with rules and regulations that they should have in the for the order. I may be wrong on that. I may be wrong on Turiyananda, but and Maharaj looked at them, and he said, didn't Swamiji make some rules? And whoever it was said yes. And he said, isn't that enough? We don't need more rules and regulations. We need more love. So that was his way of leading. Now, even later in his life, the monastery, the order of Ramakrishna order had been closely aligned. No, I won't say that. Many of the young men who joined the Ramakrishna order had been aligned with the freedom movement in India. And it is the policy of the order not to actively align with any political stand, but to try and see the Lord in every person. So Sister Nivedita came over at Swamiji's bidding. Now, Swamiji also said, you have to serve man, serve the God in men. She took it upon her, inspired by that, she took it upon herself, and she was a member of the monastic order at that time. She took it upon herself to be actively involved in the freedom movement in India. Maharaj called her to the Mott, and he said to her, Margot, you are established in the ideal of renunciation. You are a member of the monastic order. Aren't you involving yourself in politics and revolutionary activity? Well, she argued with Maharaj and said that she was following Swamiji's instructions, what he had bade her to do. Maharaj recounted to her, but several times in several letters, Swamiji has repeatedly cautioned us not to associate ourselves directly with revolutionary work. Our job is to serve mankind, thinking the Lord is present in every living being. Well, they both sat there in silence for quite a while, and then she left, took leave of Maharaj. And the next day, published in the newspapers in Calcutta, a statement that said, I am no longer associated with the Ramakrishna order. They are not to be associated with any of my political activities, which she had severed her whole relationship. But she remained one of Maharaj's favorite people. It was that he didn't tell her she couldn't exactly. He just told her what the order was. There were many other things that came up in the thing. Vigyanananda and Maharaj. Vigyanananda was the architect of the Beller Mott. And they had they had a plan, and they were costing it out, which I have a feeling was not necessarily Maharaj's favorite thing to do. But he also exemplified the whole attitude of the order, that no matter what you're called to do, and this works for everyone, no matter what you are called to do, it's all the Lord's work, if that's your attitude. Everything you do every day is the Lord's work, whether you like it or not, but you will like it if you're doing it for the Lord. As I've told many times in our eldest nun when I moved in, we don't do what we like what we do. I tell you, I did not like that at all. I fought against that, and I went, Then over the years, I've realized me reacting to it was causing me more discomfort than anyone else. And if I just did the job with no emotion attached to it, it was over and I was free to do, more. But the other funny thing is, at one of the shops here in Montecito, there was a watch fob, and it says, do what you love. And the other side says, love what you do. And I thought, it's the same thing. It's exactly the same thing. All things like this. So Maharaj took on the running of the Mott. As I say, his natural inclination was to not do that. I'll tell you about one of their board meetings. Now, I think many of you have heard from us that board meeting. Okay. They were having a board meeting at Beller Mott. This was in the very early days. And Swami Premananda wasn't there. Isn't it Premananda? Swami Premananda wasn't there. And it was the direct disciples. And Maharaj said, where is Babaram? And someone said, oh, he's up meditating. So Sardananda, who was a big burly man, Premananda was very thin. Sardananda went up the stairs. This shrine room was on the top floor, second floor. And he just literally picked up Premananda in the lotus posture, carried him down the stairs, dropped him in the courtyard, and he started dancing. And Maharaj started dancing with him. Pretty soon, all of the direct disciples were dancing instead of having their board meeting. Now, this is the kind of joy that's, to me, is part of the epitome of spiritual life, which is why probably I got the name Krishnaprana. The atmosphere of joy, not happiness, not fun. Well, I mean, you can call it that, but it's just this welling up of joy that comes from spiritual life. And Maharaj and the direct disciples epitomize that in everything you read about them. They had another thing, even Thakur did. Ramakrishna did this too, quite often. They said once he was in the courtyard and he was drawing a line in the dirt, and he said that was his spirituality was this long. And then he started drawing lines for each one of his young boys. And their line was this long. None were longer than his. This long, and they were all varying lengths. Swamiji's was right up next to his, but everyone was kind of, it was like a graph. And finally someone said, but where's Rakal? And he said, oh, his spirituality is this. And it was the longest line of all. And everyone went, what's that? And so one of the monks went over, or one of the pre-monastics went over to Holy Mother and said, what did he mean by that? And she went, oh, yes. Of course, Rakal is his son. So, and the son is to surpass the father every time. Every guru that I have, most of the gurus that I've met say their fondest desire is to have their disciples surpass them in spirituality. Swami Prabhupada used to say, that will make me the happiest. Now, Swami Brahmananda, for all the fun-loving and the kind of managing, his whole emphasis was on meditation and spiritual life. He said, the one purpose of life is to know God. Learn to be absorbed in Him. Activity is not the goal. Work without attachment is only a means to absorption in God. Meditate and dive deep. As you dive deep, you will know that God alone is real and that everything else is unreal. He said, can a man know God by himself? Can intellect grab him? Surrender yourself to him, love him, be mad for him, but see God. That is our purpose in life. And I have too many pieces of paper here. This was the final message of Sri Krishna. I'm going to just now quote a couple of things from the Bhagavad Gita, which tell you what Maharaj was really realize God, see God, know your identity with God. Two beautiful descriptions of the play in Vrindavan in the Gita, which was not about Vrindavan. Quickly I come to those who offer me every action, worship me only, their dearest delight, with devotion undaunted. Because they love me, these are my bondsmen, and I shall save them from mortal sorrow and from all the waves of life's deathly ocean. Be absorbed in me, lodge your mind in me, thus you shall dwell in me. Do not doubt it. here and hereafter. Again, his final message was, give me your whole heart, love and adore me. Worship me always, bow down to me only, and you shall find me. This is my promise, who love you dearly. Lay down all duties in me, your refuge. Fear no longer, for I will save you from sin and from bondage. This is Sri Krishna's promise. He said the same thing was said in the Bhagavatam. O thou, the refuge of all, long have I suffered from unquenchable desires. Many a life have I wandered from birth to death and from death to birth. Of peace have I found none. Therefore do I take shelter at thy lotus feet. Those who seek refuge in thee become free from fear, free from grief. Verily they attain the truth. O Lord of the universe, I seek thy freedom. So, and I think I will recommend that people, if they want to know more about Maharaj, read The Eternal Companion. And Maharaj is a Swami Brahmananda as we remember him. They're both excellent books. Is there any discussion or any questions about anything? It's good to see familiar faces. Okay. Then I will, we're going to end there. I give very short lectures. I don't have much to say. Next, we'll have the Gospel of Holy Mother on Wednesday afternoon at 4:30. We'll have Gospel of Ramakrishna at 5 on Saturday. And next Sunday, Vrajapana will be speaking on Swami Vivekananda, more relevant today than ever. So I hope you can all come. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.